You know, in AI, everyone's obsessed with building a moat, that one thing that makes you unbeatable. But what happens when that moat, well, it just vanishes, like overnight. Today, we're going to dig into this incredible story from a founder whose biggest advantage just disappeared, forcing them to completely change their game plan.
So what happened to that moat? This quote kind of says it all, doesn't it? This is the story of a company called Adja. They poured everything into building their own powerful, specialized AI model. They thought it was their ticket, their unassailable advantage. And then, poof, it was gone. And they had to figure out a whole new way to play the game.
All right, so let's get into how this all started. Back in August of 2024, Adya was doing exactly what you'd expect from an ambitious AI startup. They decided to build their own large language model, one that was super specialized for their niche in retail and commerce.
And you know what? At first, it worked. The results were, honestly, they were stunning. By September, their little specialized model was running circles around the big general ones. We're talking 21% more efficient at its job. And get this, it used 85% fewer tokens. Now, tokens are basically the currency of AI, so using that many fewer meant it was way faster and way cheaper. It was the whole package.
So for a minute there, it really felt like they had cracked the code, right? A custom model, blowing the competition out of the water on performance. This was it. This was the moat they'd been dreaming of. But here's the thing about building on the cutting edge of tech. The ground underneath you can shift, and that's exactly what was about to happen.
But pretty soon, Adja discovered something absolutely brutal. Their amazing technical edge, it didn't really matter. Why? Because they were about to slam headfirst into two massive walls: the cold, hard economics of scale and the unstoppable power of distribution.
And this slide, this really lays out the battlefield. It wasn't about who had the smarter model. On one side, you've got startups like Adja. They're paying market rates for every bit of computing power, and they have to fight and spend a ton of money for every single customer. And on the other side, well, you've got the giants, Google, OpenAI. They own their infrastructure, and they're already built into everything businesses use. It's an unfair fight from the start.
And this one number, this says it all really. $3 an hour. For Adja, every single hour they trained their model, that was cash burning, a real painful operational expense. Now think about the giants. They've already built these colossal data centers with their own custom chips. For them, the cost to run one more hour of training, it's basically zero. How can you even compete with?
And that leads to this quote, which is just, wow.
We weren't competing on model quality anymore. We were competing against balance sheets. The game completely changed. It wasn't about who had the smarter engineers or the better algorithm anymore. It was about who had the deepest pockets. And that is a fight that a startup just can't win. And believe it or not, that was only half the problem.
Yeah, see, the other half of the problem is this insane distribution advantage the big guys have. It's like a force of gravity. Their models are already there, baked into the developer tools, the cloud platforms, the big apps that everyone is already using. So for them to get a new user, it costs them nothing. For a startup like Adja, trying to get customers to switch is like trying to fight gravity. It's exhausting, and you're probably not going to win.
Okay, so just as Adja is trying to figure out how to deal with this impossible economic situation, the technology itself decides to take a giant leap forward. I mean, perfect timing, right? This made their already shaky position even worse, and, well, it forced them to have a real moment of truth.
The entire frontier of AI just shifted. In the span of a few months, the whole game changed. It wasn't about having one perfect, fine-tuned model anymore. Suddenly, it was all about these massive reasoning models and these new agentic systems. Basically, complex setups that could link a bunch of models and tools together. Adja looked at their beautiful, handcrafted moat and realized it wasn't just getting smaller. A tidal wave was coming.
So, what in the world are these agentic systems we're talking about? Well, think of a normal AI model like a really smart parrot. It's great at predicting the next word. But an agentic system? That's more like a problem solver. It's not just about spitting out text. It's designed to get a job done. It can reason, it can use other tools, it can go get data. It actually adapts to achieve a goal.
Let me give you a practical example of why this is such a game changer. A static model only knows what it was taught, right? Its knowledge is frozen in time. An agent, on the other hand, can do stuff. It can go query a live product catalog right now, then call an API to check the real-time inventory, and on top of all that, it learns from feedback over time. It's a living, breathing system that gets better and better, and a static model just can't.
So Adja is looking at this new reality. They realized the big guys could just take their entire niche
and swallow it whole inside one of these new agentic systems. So they made a choice. A really tough, but really smart, strategic pivot. They decided to stop trying to beat the giants at their own game.
So if building the biggest, baddest model on the planet is a losing game for pretty much everyone except the giants, where's the real opportunity? What do you do? Well, the answer Audio landed on was fascinating. They decided not to go bigger, but to go smaller. Way, way more specific.
Because it turns out the future for a lot of applications isn't some giant AI brain sitting in the cloud. No, it's in small language models, SLMs, that run on the edge. That means they run right on the device itself, where things like privacy, speed, and cost are everything. We're talking about AI running inside a drone, or directly on a medical device in a hospital, or inside a super secure banking system where the data absolutely cannot leave the building.
And so this became Aja's new mission. Instead of trying to find gold, they started selling the picks and shovels. They built a platform that helps other companies build, fine-tune, and operate their own specialized models. So instead of owning the AI model itself, they now own the factory that lets anyone create and manage their own specialized intelligence. It's a brilliant move.
And here's the key lesson from their whole story. Building that first model, it wasn't a mistake. Not at all. In fact, you could argue it was the most important thing they ever did. Sure, it was a super expensive education, but it was a necessary one. It taught them exactly where the real, lasting value was hiding in this wild, new AI economy.
And that really leaves us with this final kind of mind-bending question. What if we're all looking at this AI race the wrong way? What if it's not about building one giant, all-powerful brain in the cloud? What if the real revolution, the real future, is about enabling millions of tiny, specialized brains to exist everywhere?